A bear is at the zoo. Look at the bear.
My name is Maria Rebbecchi. This is my husband, Tom. We have a 6-year-old son named Dominic. He has Glut1 Deficiency. And we have a 13-year-old daughter. Her name is Iris.
We live in New Jersey. I am an emergency physician, and my wife is a registered nurse. Our daughter Iris is entering the 8th grade. She's 13. She is a great big sister to Dominic, has been supportive and always loving towards him from when we brought him home from the hospital. As she has aged, she's helped us a lot with Dominic, from his meals and to light babysitting and things like that, and it's really great to have her help and dedication. She loves dance. She's heavily involved in dance. I think she probably dances 20 hours a week on top of her school load. That's something that she finds a lot of passion towards and something she loves, and we support her fully in that. Having a medical background has definitely helped Maria and I kind of negotiate the world of Glut1 deficiency from the standpoint of just being a nurse and a physician. We kind of know certain systems, but our training has never touched on Glut1 deficiency. We both work in the emergency room, and the things we see there are light years away from anything that looks like Glut1 deficiency.
So one of my favorite things about your school, Dom, is the name, John Glenn. You go to John Glenn School, right? And I think, if I remember right, Dom was going to go into kindergarten next year. So
Stop.
Stop what?
I'm going in the first grade.
Oh, you're going in the 1st grade, so tell me about that. Who's going in the 1st grade with you? Who are your friends? Is Chase going in the 1st grade with you?
I don't know.
Talk about something else. What would you like to talk about?
Yeah. What's your favorite thing? What's your favorite thing? What's your favorite thing in the world? Dinos. So what's your favorite dinosaur?
T-Rex.
T-Rex. Well, you know what Daddy's favorite dinosaur is, right?
Stegosaurus and Rice. Ceratops.
The plant eaters. You like the meat eaters. And you're not afraid of those guys. Tell me about your pillow, the pillow you sleep on at night. What is it? It's an Indominus Rex pillowcase and T-Rex. And you're not afraid of those at all. Okay. I would be afraid of them if I were a little pipsqueak like you.
Can we be done now?
In a few minutes, we'll be done. What else do you like other than dinosaurs? Like trains, right? Trains and dinosaurs.
Underwater train.
Underwater trains. Yeah. Let's talk about, I know what we like to do. You and Daddy like to go to the pool, right? You jump off the diving board. What was the thing that you did for the first time that you're off the diving board? Cannonball. Those are awesome. You're doing better than Daddy, don't you? Yeah. What do you like to eat the best? What's your favorite food? I think I know that too. Do you know?
You know?
You tell me.
You tell me.
Well, I know you love watermelon because you and Dad both love watermelon.
Just you tell me.
Watermelon's your favorite food.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. You like chicken? Steak? What did we make on the grill last night? What did Daddy make on the grill last night for us? It was just the boys. Cheese. No. Cheeseburgers. Didn't we make cheeseburgers last night?
Yes.
Those were good. Lots of cheese. What's your favorite treat?
Cheese puffs.
Cheese puffs. What's your favorite book? What book do you like to read the most? Paw Patrol books. How about your favorite TV show? Blaze. You gotta know, you got these things down. How about your favorite movie? What's your favorite movie?
Minions.
The Minions. Did we just see Minions in the movie theater? Who went to that movie? Our journey with our son Dominic down the Glut1 Deficiency Syndrome path started when he was just an infant, actually. I was away at a meeting for work. I talked to my wife Maria, and she noticed something that happened to him.
Yeah, Dominic started having just these weird, almost rapid eye movements where his eyes would kind of go back and forth, and he seemed to be awake through it the whole time and bothered, kind of whimpering and crying. And these episodes would last, I don't know, maybe 30 seconds at the most, and then he would be fine afterward. Initially, I thought it was some sort of seizure activity.
And we're both in the medical profession, and that's what came to my mind as well. So we decided to just talk to the pediatrician and just kind of play things by ear and see how things go, because little babies do kind of funny things with their eyes. We both knew that. So we decided to wait again until we saw it again. And then when we did see it again, I think we both saw it. And we both were kind of very concerned that this was kind of seizure activity. Because we knew if we kind of investigated it, then he would go kind of down a pathway of getting some diagnostic testing. And we weren't quite sure. And then, shortly thereafter, when I came home from that meeting, we both saw it. And we both knew. We talked to the pediatrician again, and obviously they put us together with a neurologist. And then the typical testing came with an ambulatory EEG and MRIs, and with that came, he's Dominic's an infant, sedation and
things that were not very fun.
And then all along, he started noticing some things. He was kind of falling behind on his milestones, even though if he was an infant, we noticed he wasn't doing the typical movements or making typical sounds that an infant would, a very young child, and we thought he was falling behind and kind of following along with the pediatrician. And then you noticed something, even at the time and in retrospect now, with his kind of relationship to stimulation.
Yeah, he never really enjoyed things that normal babies would enjoy, such as our older daughter. Music, laughter, tickling, throwing them up in the air and having fun with them. He never enjoyed them, and it seemed to bother him more than anything. And in retrospect, things kind of start coming together. It was definitely noticeable then, and I shared that with the physicians and the pediatrician. That was one of our concerns. And the initial set of testing came up negative. EEG was negative. MRI was negative. And
we were kind of just giving, all right, well, let's just wait and see. Everything looks okay. Let's just see how things progress. If they do, hopefully not. And by the time he's 9 months now, he has what seems like a grand mal seizure, a big seizure that brings him to the hospital. Oh, by the way, the hospital that I was working in at the time, in the ER. So that was obviously very upsetting for us. And at that point, he got put on medicines for seizure, even though his EEG didn't show anything. And now we're moving into him being 1. He never had a seizure again, but he was still kind of having odd eye movements, right, and other things that you were seeing because you were at home with him mostly.
Yeah, started progressing just into strength issues. He wasn't sitting up as well as he should be. He wasn't attempting to walk like he should be. And actually, he never walked until he was 22 months. And even at 22 months, he did not walk well. Frequent falls.
He was more cruising at 22 months rather than walking. He would take a couple steps, but obviously looking back, and now we know that the ataxia and he just seemed kind of drunk, even at 2 years of age. And at this point, we don't have a diagnosis. We're seeing a neurologist and other developmental pediatricians on a regular basis, as regular as you can, and not getting any answers necessarily. And we felt like we were kind of just running down this path where it was a wait and see. No one had any answers, and at least I was getting the idea in my head that this just may go on without a diagnosis, and the path ahead of us would be very, very muddy and unclear. And all along, Dominic's, he's a trooper trying to get through this, but he always kind of looked, and we look back at pictures and we see that kind of hazed look, kind of that glassed over look, like with poor focus. That's how I would describe his first 3 years of life, although a happy kid.
Very
He's still happy.
Couldn't concentrate on any one thing for a very long period of time. Couldn't play without us sitting there and playing with him. He really needed us to guide him every step of the way with his normal developmental things. Yeah.
So we're continuing on now. He's, I guess, walking at 2 and still kind of falling behind in his milestones. Walking and speech especially, I think by the time he was 3, he was maybe saying 5 words that a stranger might comprehend.
Yeah, he mostly kind of grunted, made sounds for the things that he would want, but 5 recognizable words to us. I wouldn't say that to anyone else they would have known what he was saying.
Yeah.
When we started paying attention, kind of his love and attraction to food, and we have some great pictures and videos of him just really getting animated after he ate. And when he would get really upset, we would tend to feed him. Now, when kids are young, people tend to feed them, so it was hard to kind of pick up the pattern. But looking back retrospectively, it was pretty clear that whatever these behavior issues that he was having, or these events, these neurologic events that he would have, would improve when he would eat. So we were super focused, although we didn't know why, on getting him fed.
So more falling behind, which kind of led to more testing and things like that. And then we started becoming a little more active in his medical care. Not that we weren't in the past, but we started pushing a little more. We were, as I mentioned, we're both medical professionals, so we started doing a lot of research on our own about what this might be. And I think you kind of talked to his developmental pediatrician about getting some metabolic testing and things like that, which actually happened.
Yeah,
right?
So we got the metabolic testing, and some of the lab values came up abnormal, but they didn't really point in any one direction. But what I kept saying was that I've seen a lot of children and adults have seizures, And when they have seizures, they kind of walk out of the hospital at their baseline a couple hours later. But Dominic never returned to his baseline.
Yeah,
He would regress.
when he would have these events, yeah,
Right.
these neurologic events, as we were calling them at the time, because
Right.
he never really was diagnosed other than the one seizure that we saw. So I think after the metabolic testing, I think you discussed that with his pediatrician, and his general pediatrician said, hey, put the idea in your head about getting genetic testing, which no one had suggested to us. And we still are very thankful to Dominic's pediatrician because we were seeing specialists and no one had an answer. And the pediatrician didn't either, but he, I think, was just able to step back and give us some kind of guidance from a couple thousand, 20,000 feet rather than kind of in the weeds. And that's what kind of led to his diagnosis right before his 3rd birthday.
Yeah, and it was a while after that. We had to wait our 6 months for our genetic testing appointment at the hospital, and I think that was in April. And then in July, we got a phone call saying we need you to come in a little bit earlier than expected to discuss the results. And he was diagnosed with Glut1 Deficiency Syndrome in July of 2013. He was just under 3 years old, and we consider ourselves very, very fortunate to have such an early diagnosis. And he was put on the ketogenic diet about a month and a half later.
It was a long month and a half, actually.
It was a very long month and a half.
We were like, oh, okay, can he start it tomorrow? And we started giving him keto-like foods in advance and didn't realize at the time how scientific kind of the diet was and the process was. That we're fortunate to be in the Philadelphia area, where the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia is, obviously a world-renowned place for pediatric care, but they have a very big ketogenic diet center. So he got induced onto the ketogenic diet the 2nd week of September, just right before his 3rd birthday. I think the diet and everything else that we've surrounded ourselves with and Dominic with around the community of Glut1 has had just a fantastic effect on not only Dominic, on us, right? So the diet has been probably nothing short of miraculous for Dominic, I would say.
Yes.
When he went into that hospitalization just prior to his 3rd birthday, he was saying just a handful of comprehensible words, and now he doesn't shut up. He's like me.
He talks a lot.
He's like me.
He does.
Yeah, so one of the other things over the last 4 years that he's been on the diet, he's been behind in most of his milestones, but he's caught up on a lot of them. His reading comprehension, his math skills. He still has some physical challenges. Stamina is the big issue, I think, with Dominic, and fatigability.
Yeah.
So those are big issues. The diet for us is very routine. It was hard in the beginning, really hard.
Very hard in the beginning.
Yeah, we don't have that diet limit us, and we don't limit Dominic, and we can throw together a day's worth of meals in about 4 minutes and we're out the door. So it's allowed, I think, Dominic to kind of come out of his shell. That haze is gone. If you ever meet him, he's one of the most gregarious kids. And I think what I've seen in the Glut1 community, that's something that a lot of these kids have. So I think we're very thankful for that.
Social. He's the mayor at school.
He's the mayor. If you walk down the hallway with him, he's waving to everybody. So he's turned into a regular boy. We couldn't be happier, and I think a lot of that is due to the diet and the community that we've surrounded ourselves with.
He loves to do everything that any normal 6-year-old child wants to do. He loves to play. He doesn't let his limitations get him down.
Yeah.
He keeps up with the rest of the kids the best he can, and he doesn't seem to let it emotionally bother him.
The diagnosis, the diet, and everything has had a big effect on our family, I would say, in both positive and negative ways. We're very fortunate that we know that Dominic was diagnosed early. That's a big thing, so we're very thankful for that. But around the diagnosis, and both before and after the diagnosis, differing stresses, but stress it may be different than probably a typical household. We have another daughter, so we stress around her for different things than we do with Dominic with Glut1. I think, would you say prior to discharge, prior to the diagnosis, what do you think the biggest stresses were?
It was day-to-day worry about him having these seizures and neurologic episodes, seeing my son not be able to keep up with the other babies and children that were the same age. I remember I used to bring him to Gymboree. It would just break my heart watching him struggle when the other kids could kind of climb up onto the blocks on their own and he could barely even sit up. I think a lot of times you don't see how your children are doing until you've seen them with other kids, and I think that was it was a big stress. Just the unknown of what was going on and what he could possibly have. Is whatever he has, is it degenerative? It was a lot on us. And although the diagnosis of Glut1 was stressful in and of itself, there was a sense of relief that we now had a direction, and I almost felt like we could finally begin our life knowing this diagnosis.
I agree. So, and there was some stresses after, right? The stresses that we deal with every day. Focusing on the treatment, the diet, which has become so kind of second nature that it's probably a tiny little stress. We had changed our lifestyle significantly, I think. And I think one of the things that we talk about mostly, the thing that stresses out is that there's no playbook. There's so few kids that have gone down this road that we know about that kind of is an unknown future for Dominic. Will he ever have a family? Will he ever go to college? Those type things. And so we're doing everything we possibly can to kind of pave that path for him the best we can. And I think through it all, it's made our family stronger, right? Wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we have become so strong and connected. Our older daughter, Iris, she's been amazing through all of this, just so supportive. She's actually very involved with Dominic's dietary needs.
Yeah, checks his ketones.
Checks his ketones, finger stick. She'll get a meal together for him if need be, and she has an interest in learning further. I think I didn't tell you, but just the other day she asked when she could kind of take a class in learning how to do the math related to the ketogenic diet.
Yeah.
So I just think that it's brought us together very closely, and I try not to worry about the future as much as I did probably for my own sanity, and really just take things day to day and focus on the little accomplishments that Dominic makes.
I mean, I think since the diet, I think I mentioned before, we talked about this haze that he seemed to have, kind of a glassy-eyed look, this kind of almost drunk look that kind of got lifted, and his speech and his concentration, his ability to focus was almost something that we noticed when we took him home from the hospital, and he just started kind of enjoying things. I'm going to tell the story. So I love this story that Panera is one of our favorite kind of family restaurants that we go to, pseudo fast food restaurants, and it was just the three of us. I think it was just you, Dominic, and I, and we had gone there, and we'd come out of the place, and Dominic was 3. He had just turned 3 soon after the diet. For some reason, you and I had separate cars there. I must have met you there from work.
Right, he was upset.
And he was going to go home with Mom, and he just wanted to go home with me, or vice versa. I don't know what it was. And he just threw a 3-year-old tantrum and laid down in the middle of the parking lot. And we stood there over him, and he's flipping out, and we just smiled and almost cried.
Overjoyed.
Because he hadn't done that. He wasn't aware of enough things to do that.
It was wonderful.
Yeah,
See him throw a tantrum like a normal 3-year-old should.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think all the other people around us probably
thought
we were crazy.
Thought we were crazy
laughing at our son having a tantrum in the
laying down in the parking lot. So anyway, so that's just kind of an interesting story that we always reflect back on. His speech has gotten so much better. He's had no neurologic events. His social abilities were always kind of there, but they've exploded since the diet. So
he loves people. He loves interacting with people. Makes new friends wherever he goes.
Yeah.
If he sees an old friend, it's like yesterday.
Yeah, just in the lobby we saw. He hadn't seen one of the other children for 2 years, and they were like peas and carrots. And he's got a great outlook, right? I mean, most of his days are good days. I think we try to manage the fatigability. The end of the days tend to be hard for Dominic, where if we want to do something after dinner, it has to be the right day. Otherwise, those meltdowns are going to come. So
I would say stamina is his biggest issue. He has not had a seizure since he's been on the ketogenic diet. He does have episodes or periods of body weakness, or he's had some kind of like left-sided weakness of his body, or an ataxic gait, just a handful of times, and those times were when he was ill. So I guess his body was stressed, and he kind of had a couple episodes. But
I would say they're rare, though.
Yeah, they're rare, and
thankfully,
overall, he's very healthy, and he's behind physically. I don't know that he'll ever be caught up physically, so he can't do the monkey bars at the playground, and he has difficulty running and riding a bike. We're okay with that, being that cognitively he seems to be there. He seems to...
It's the most important thing, we think. So
yes.
Be nice if he can play Little League when he's 13. That probably isn't going to happen.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
We've kind of come to terms with the things that he's not going to be able to do, and I think that's helped us a lot. Yeah,
it definitely has. We recognize that we've 3 years ago got a second chance with Dominic, and we've just latched onto that. We realized that his limitations, but it hasn't limited us, right? I mean, Team Rebbecchi's always on the go, whether it's to a national park or whatever. We don't let his diagnosis limit us. I mean, we have a a backpack for Dominic that Daddy has to wear at 40-some pounds, and we don't let it limit us. We talk about this all the time.
Dramatically increased since
improved.
diagnosis.
So when you think about one of the questions that we talked to other families about, how do you make it work? We try to get in touch with newly diagnosed families, and us from 4 years ago were shell-shocked.
Yeah,
we were shell-shocked.
I want to help other people. I know how it feels to be isolated and alone. Just as taking care of a child with disabilities, no one truly understands what you're going through, even though they try. It's one of the most difficult things I think parents can go through.
It is a team, and we have extended family that help us. Our individual family unit, including our daughter, is a big part of that team. So that's one way that we get it to work, right? We're always on the same page. Everybody's chipping in. Dominic is participating as much as he can.
And we realize that not everybody has a team that we have. And sometimes it's about finding maybe someone that's outside of the family to be on your team. I think that's one of the things I talk to people about, because it is hard to do by yourself. But for us, we didn't have a choice. This was it. This was his diagnosis. There was no other treatment. And considering all of the rare diseases that there are in the world, there's a treatment for this one, and we feel very fortunate for that.
Yeah, life can be great, and we're trying to make it as great as it can be every single day. I mean, we are family trip planners. We have the next 5 trips planned, whether it's a national park or we went to Paris last year, and we're not letting anything hold us back. It takes a lot of planning to do that. That's kind of a big message. When you and I are fortunate enough to be able to go away, we prepare all of his meals in advance, and it's planning, but it's worth it to have that normal life.
We've adjusted our ways of living. You know, Dominic doesn't live for food, and we try not to live for food either. So not that we don't go out for ice cream sometimes with our other daughter, but we just make it a little bit different. We bring Dominic his icy or his own ice cream.
Our meals at home are very basic so that he can participate in those. No casseroles or anything with mixtures, and that's fine. That's that's not a big sacrifice for us. It just actually makes things easier. You know, one of the things that when we have time in the household, in our busy household, we often think about and talk about things that we might do differently right now, and I think we're on the same page in that we would push a whole lot more when Dominic was younger. There's a little bit of guilt there on our part. I think we feel a little bit guilty that we didn't push and put him in front of more people. But
even though we're in the medical field, it's different when it's your own child that things are happening to, and sometimes the blinders go up and you're not thinking straight. And I would have definitely pushed harder from the beginning, just to have more people look at him and do more of my own research and just listen more to what other people had to say.
And that
we did our best, and we're here.
That 6 or 8 weeks before when Dominic was diagnosed with the geneticist at CHOPS at the time, he went onto the ketogenic diet. It seemed like a lifetime, and maybe we should have pushed a little harder there as well.
I would have pushed to have him emergently started on the diet, but it is what it is now, and he's doing great. I think other families need to realize that that's a little bit of a dark time, right, around the diagnosis and kind of getting life situated around the diet. But things get better. They do get better.
I remember a couple months after Dominic coming home from the hospital, our feet were tired. We actually bought these mats for the kitchen because we were standing and cooking and preparing and trying different things for so long that we had to stand on. We stood on mats, right?
Our feet hurt.
Our feet hurt, but now it's second nature, so kind of things get better. There's always ups and downs. Things with school and services, because of Dominic has some disabilities around physical therapy and speech, can be a challenge. We've learned a lot from the community. We've learned a lot from the Glut1 Foundation and the people that we've connected with on how to troubleshoot some of those things, what to expect in the future. And it's been a huge resource for us. And this is obviously why we are here at the meeting and want to connect with folks, right? Because they've been a big help.
We want to be a resource back to other families that are newly diagnosed.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we talk about all the time, and one of our kind of personal missions, and we've fulfilled this in differing ways, is that the diagnosis is a gift. We've learned a huge amount. We've walked down the road, and now it's our obligation. We feel it's our obligation to help other people with the same condition. So an obligation to educate others. Whether or not they want to take that advice and education or not, we were always thankful to have it in the beginning, and we still seek it out now. I was just talking to someone who has a child who's 13, so that's right around the corner for Dom. Just asking questions, school, diet. So we're still learning, and we're trying to educate as well. That's been our personal mission. That kind of gives us a level of fulfillment, as well as seeing Dominic do so well.